Om-Jnana-Timarnasya Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswata Devi Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskatyai Desatari. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jyamudirayat Nastavaja Bhadrasu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. We are reading from the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. Text 73. Devayam nodita sarve pachasake prashasvara anenat tamasa shishrekshma vivida paja. Devayam nodita sarve pachasake prashasvara Anena tvasta tamasa shishrekshmo vivida paja. Devayam nodita sarve paja sarve payasvara. Anena tvasta tamasa shishrekshmo vivida paja. Word for word translation. Te by him, Vayam, all of us, Nodita, ordered, Sarve, all, Praja Sarhe, at the time of creation, of creating population, Praja Ishvara, the controllers of all living entities, Anena, by this Tvasta Tamasa, being freed from all kinds of ignorance. Shishrekshma, we created. Vivida, various kinds of Praja, living entities. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. When all the Prajapatis were ordered to create by Lord Brahma, we chanted his prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and became completely free from all ignorance. Thus we were able to create different types of living entities. Purport. In this verse we can understand that various types of living entities were created simultaneously at the very beginning of the creation. The nonsensical Darwinian theory of evolution is not applicable here. It is not that intelligent human beings did not exist millions of years ago. On the contrary, it is understood that the most intelligent creature, Lord Brahma, was first created. Then Lord Brahma created other saintly sages like Marichi, Brihu, Atreya, Vashishta, and Lord Shiva. They in turn created different types of bodies according to karma. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapiladev told his mother that the living entity gets a particular type of body in accordance with his work, and that this body is decided upon by higher authorities. The higher authorities, as appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are Lord Brahma and all the other Prajapatis and Manus. Thus, from the very beginning of creation, it can be seen that the first creature is the most intelligent. It is not that so-called modern intelligence has developed by the gradual process of evolution. As stated in Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there is a gradual evolutionary process, but it is not a body that is evolving. All the body forms are already there. In the it is the spiritual identity or spiritual spark within the body that is being promoted by the laws of nature under the supervision of superior authority. We can understand from this verse that from the very beginning of creation, different varieties of living entities were existing. It is not that some of them have become extinct. Everything is there. It is due to our lack of knowledge that we cannot see things in their proper perspective. In this verse, the word dvasta tamasa is very important, for without being free of ignorance, one cannot control the creation of different types of living entities. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Daiva Netrena, bodies are awarded under the supervision of superior powers. How can these superior powers control the evolutionary process of the living entity if they are not free from all imperfection? The followers of Vedic instructions cannot accept the Darwinian theory of evolution, for it is marked by imperfect knowledge. The verse again. Devayam nodita sarve praja sarve prayasvara anena dvasta tamasa sisreksma vivida praja. When all the Prajapatas were ordered to create by Lord Brahma, we chanted his prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and became completely free from all ignorance. Thus, we were able to create different types of living entities. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svamrabhakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiro Shiyuda Padakamalam Shirom Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Jagajatam Sagan Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parachana Sarintam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shivashakam Vitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jatpate Gopesha Gopra Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kansna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanesvare Vishabhane Sudate Vipranamama Haripri Vankha Kalpta Vishake Pasni Bhavisha Padnam Pavana Bhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Nama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarani. So after the Prajapatis chanted the prayers given by Brahma, they acquired the potencies to create. They then took up the task of furthering the population of the universe. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is criticizing the modern version of how the species were created in the universe. So what is the theory? The theory of the modern scientist is that sometime in the past, many years ago, some forms of life originated from matter. And then by further evolution, these forms of life developed and became more and more complex. Thus this development took place right to the peak. The peak of this development is the human form of life, which is the most complex. Of course, I'm not a biologist or a scientist. I'm not an expert on this subject, but the system of creation described by Srila Prabhupada in the purport is so perfect that even without being a biochemist or biologist, we can easily condemn this theory. Srila Prabhupada said many times that I'm not a scientist, but because of Shastra, I can challenge the scientists about their theories. So the two theories of science that Srila Prabhupada was most against were one, the creation of the universe coming from a Big Bang, and second, the evolutionary theory of Darwin. So Prabhupada was so strongly convinced about this that he did not care to whom in front he was speaking. His faith was based on Shastra, not sense perception. Unless we come to the spiritual platform, it is likely that we remain having faith in what we can perceive with our senses. And therefore the theories scientists present, the theories that scientists present to us, they seem to be reasonable and acceptable. But the knowledge of Shastra is not based on sense perception. The Vedas are coming directly from the breathing of Lord Narayan. The Vedas are internal knowledge. And therefore it has nothing to do with the imperfections of this world. When we see the universe and life, when we see that from the viewpoint of the scriptures, then the modern scientific theory seems to be very childish. It is so foolish that people imagine that life has come out of matter or out of nowhere. This is very surprising. This is the power of Maya or illusion. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains, Maya Paritagyan, those whose knowledge has been stolen by illusion, they cannot accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is common sense that life comes from life, not from matter. Matter comes from life. There are many examples of that. But there is not a single example before us where we see life coming from matter. Srila Prabhupada challenged the scientist. You at least produce one cockroach in your laboratory. Then we shall start talking. What is their reply? Oh, we will in the future, it is only a matter of time. A matter of time that we will come to this level. Srila Prabhupada laughed at this answer by saying, this is like a post-dated check given by a bank to a man for $100,000. Suppose you see a very poor man on the street and he's begging. He has not even 5 rupees in his pocket, and the man signs a check for 100,000 rupees and tells him, please cash it after 1 month. He will not believe you. Please show me that you have at least 100 rupees in your pocket. Then I will believe you. So, then I will believe that your check has some value. So Prabhupada said, at least make one ant, one worm, one germ, make something and show it. Otherwise it's simply talking. And by this talking you are simply fooling the people of the world, deceiving them. So in the scriptures the example is given that sometimes a scorpion lies her eggs in a pile of rice. And when the eggs break, then the scorpions come out of the rice. So a foolish person may think that the rice produces the scorpions. But the mother scorpion has laid the eggs, and that is why the scorpions are coming out. Similarly, life cannot come from matter. Life has a cause that is beyond matter. So this material nature is called Prakriti, which is feminine by nature. A woman by herself cannot give birth to a child. The cooperation of a man is necessary. Similarly, the Shastra explain especially in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it's explained that the material nature in itself cannot produce life, because she is just like a lady all by herself. But Krishna is the supreme Purush, the supreme male. When he impregnates Prakriti, material nature, then all species come into existence. So Krishna instructs us in Bhagavad Gita 14.4. Sarva yunisi kaunteya murtaya sambhavanteya tasam brahmamacha nirambija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this world, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Ambija Pradapata. So important is in this verse 14.4, Krishna says, of all species. And I'm the seed-giving Father. 2 important points. Krishna is the supreme Father of all species of life. He is the father of all human beings. He is also the father of the cockroaches, the worms, the bulls, the cows, the ants. So material nature or Prakriti is the mother. It is only by the cooperation of Krishna, the Purush, that all species come into existence. By sense perception and speculation, it is impossible to understand the universe. Our scientists have not been able to understand this earth properly. With all its oceans and mountains, land and vegetation. Every day there is another discovery and more surprise. And their theories, they keep on changing. But the knowledge of Shastra is fixed. permanent. In the Puranas, the number of species and types of species are mentioned with great accuracy. It says there are 9 lakhs of species of those who live into the water. 20 lakhs of species of trees, plants, creepers, etc. That 11 lakhs of species of insects and reptiles, 10 lakhs of species of birds, 30 lakhs of species of beasts, animals, and 4 lakhs of species of human beings. In total, 84 lakhs of species, 8,400,000 forms of life. And Krishna is the father of all of them, and Prakriti is the mother of all of them. So this is perfect knowledge, not the world speculations and so-called theories. Perfect knowledge of creation is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Brahma, after tapa, austerities, he became empowered for the creation. And we see here also the Prajapatis, they became pure by chanting these prayers. And they were able to create living entities. They were enabled to be the instrument of Krishna in the creation. When Brahma creates, when of course the Prajapatis creates, but Brahma also has created the first living entities that even does not know how he does it, but somewhere or other it comes out of his mind, the living entities, according to his mood. So this purport of Srila Prabhupada gives the point that where do we put our faith? In the so-called scientific theories, which change regularly, that you read many times in the newspaper that they have new discoveries in the universe because they have telescopes and can see much further. And these discoveries, they change their present theories. So it's constantly changing. But that is not science. That is science fiction. That real science does not change. That we see here also, Prabhupada mentioned we get bodies according to our karma. And refers to this verse at the end of the 3rd canto, teachings of Lord Kapila Dev, that we get a body under superior authority. So we get a particular body and it is said here the higher authorities appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead are Brahma and all other Prajapatis and Manas. Also Prabhupada in the purport discusses he criticizes the Darwinian theory because it's speaking about evolution, but factually it's devolution. It's going down. The bodies in the beginning of creation were much stronger, and the bodies in Satya Yuga were different from the bodies in this Yuga. We see that in Krishna book, in the 10th canto, was Mukunda I forgot his name. He was sleeping for a long time.
Muchikunda.
Muchikunda. Because he fought for the demigods. And after fighting for the demigods wanted to give him a blessing, and he said, "Yeah, I want to sleep for a long time," he said. And they blessed him to sleep for a long time, and he had a blessing that when one would disturb his sleep, he would have the power to burn that person with his eyes. But he slept so long that, and he woke up at the end of Dwapara Yuga, and he saw that all living entities, the species, that they were shorter, not so big anymore, and also the trees were less inside. That's interesting. That's the evolution, and that's. So Prabhupada says it is from the beginning of creation. It can be seen that the first creature is most intelligent. That indicates the same, and that all the body forms are already there. Prabhupada says that at the time of death, then according to our consciousness, we are transported to a certain body. That that is important. That we are the architect of our future, and we are choosing a certain body by our consciousness. That if we have the body of an animal, we will develop, we will become immersed. It's because we are immersed in the mode of ignorance that Krishna says in 9.25 in Bhagavad Gita, one who worships the demigods go to the demigods, because that worship brings one to goodness. One who worships the ghost, the pisachas and so on, takes birth among such beings. So that's the cultivation of the mode of ignorance. But one who worships me, Krishna says, comes to me. That those who are in transcendental consciousness, they get free from this cycling through this 8,400,000 species of life. So that the idea of evolution, Prabhupada mentions, is related to bodies. But factually, there is an evolution of consciousness, because the living entity's consciousness in this material world is covered by the modes of nature. And it gradually goes up. It's a gradual evolution to the species, and with always higher consciousness. I think there are 4 species which comes before the human form of life. Like one is the cow, I think the other the monkey. I forgot them, the 2 others. You know them, Mother Lakshmi Muni. These 4 which comes just before the human form of life. Yes.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist either.
Yeah, but it's somewhere in the scriptures that I think.
The lion. Maruta says a lion.
Yeah, a lion. I think a lion.
It's a cat, a monkey, a cat, a monkey, and maybe a lion. I don't know.
A lion, and there was a fourth one. Yeah. That. Yeah, a lion. Yeah, these are. Yeah, but that means because the consciousness of the living entity is not really pure, and it goes against up to this purity, but it goes very slow. So after 100 births as a cow, then you get the possibility to get to human form again. So this is a slow evolutionary process of the consciousness. But Prabhupada said the species are fixed. That the one of the problems with the Darwinian theory is that it speaks about evolution to more complex living entities, to more complex forms of life. And that comes from matter, they say. But if you look just about the complexity, how an eye functions, how can that just evolve by chance? By chance, like nothing. It's nonsensical that such a complex living entity comes from a lower form of life, or to say from matter. It doesn't make sense. That it means there are powers in the universe which controls everything, controls all these laws of nature. And these bodies, they are there from the beginning. They are created by these prajapatis. And these prajapatis had a very important function, especially in the beginning of creation, because in the beginning of the creation, the universe was empty. It was their function to create population, to generate population. And that was the order they received from Brahma. This was their function. And one of the chief Prajapatis was Daksha, but he became very puffed up, thinking he was very important because he was better than the others, because he was appointed as the chief Prajapati. But that was their function, and one of the most important or most prominent Prajapati is Kashyapa Muni. Kashyapa Muni created so many, not only human forms of life, but many animal forms of life. This is in all this knowledge is in the Bhagavatam. How all these species were created. It has so many details about that. But it doesn't make sense how something from something simple, something complex comes. It is, of course, we see in the fourth canto, in the third canto, it's also described how the living entity, after the conception in the womb, how it grows in the beginning as the form of a pea, but then the body in the womb of the mother develops, but how does it develop? Because the subtle body of the living entity is there already. Subtle body, Prabhupada explains, it's like you have a skyscraper. When they build a skyscraper, they first make they first build a metal structure, a structure, and then they start to fill it up. The subtle body is like that. The form of the living entity is already there, and it's created according to that form. So that is how these forms are fixed. And they come from life. It develops that. In other words, there is a plan, there is intelligence beyond the creation. And that's the function of these Prajapatis. They are creating living entities. Because I remember when I was in the high school and I got my first class of chemistry, and the teacher explained that if you take one part of hydrogen and 2 parts of oxygen, and you put them together, you have water. I think it were 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you put them together, you get water. And I asked him, why is that? Why is that happening like that? And he said to me, this is beyond the scope of what I'm teaching. And that's it. These questions you cannot ask. But there are material laws and we find these material laws, they are all also working to this 8,400,000 species of life. They are designed, they are fixed, they will develop like that. And so there is a higher intelligence behind that, which is beyond our perception. That is this higher intelligence, that the gross comes from the subtle. That you can see if someone leaves his body, that according to one's mentality during one's life, the subtle body gets already a certain form at the time of death. And prepares, and that subtle body is trained. One goes to Yamaraj, and then one is trained for the next body, and the subtle body it gets certain form and is trained. And then one takes birth in the womb of a mother of a certain species, which produces that form. Therefore, everything happens under higher supervision, superior authority. And this is very important for development of Krishna consciousness, accepting this superior authority. Our present life is the body that we get. All what we go through is a reaction of previous lives. But a devotee is conscious of that. He knows Heimlich plans but the Krishna's plan is superior. He will give me the reactions of my past life, that my plans may not be fulfilled. So a devotee is very aware of that. Higher authorities are always there. Therefore, we say, well, Bojampa were used always to say that if he was speaking about the future or whatever, he would always say, if Krishna willing. That so this means that we take into account these higher authorities. That so this is an important purport. I find it amazing because I've been asked to speak on 4 verses, and every verse gives quite a different topic to discuss. What a variety it is, just in 4 verses. That is amazing. The Bhagavatam, it touches so many aspects of life. So that is what I could say on this verse. Any comments, questions?
Whatever question I have, I'm not sure it's answerable. I was looking, that Prabhupada says that there's 3, well, he gives the example of 3, sometimes 4. He says elephant and lion. That an animal which is about to take a human birth in the mode of ignorance is in the monkey. That's the precursor to the mode of ignorance. And then he says, that's why Darwin comes from the monkeys, and he laughs. and then he says, the precursor to the mode of passion is either the lion. Most of the time he says lion, sometimes he says lion and elephant. And then for the human form of life, the cow, in the mode of goodness is the cow. For the cow will take human form of life in the mode of goodness. But the question comes that that's a big leap from the animal form of life into the human form of life, from a monkey or whatever, a lion. So are we to assume that every lion or every monkey is going to take a human birth in the mode of whatever, passion or ignorance in their next birth? It's an interesting thing to ponder upon. I'm not sure if it's an answerable question, though.
Yeah, I think it's this. If one goes to this lower form of life, it's an imprisonment that and Prabhupada in some lectures speaks about like 100 births of a cow, and then one gets the human form of life. So it's many births.
I see.
And that, but of course, for us, it's we can help these lower species. Like if we have cows and we offer their milk to the deities, that then they will get very much quicker. Probably their next birth will be a human birth. That just by that, by offering them their milk, because they are giving in that way indirect service to Krishna. But yes, it's. I understand it's a slow process. That it takes many births in the same species before one moves up, and that therefore it is so important we get out of this tendency for sense gratification, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I think 3:17, one who lives only for the pleasure of the senses lives in vain. And the degradation to animal life is there. That although human beings, interesting also is that animals do not make karma. They exhaust their karma and then come to the human form of life. So it needs some time to exhaust this karma and come to the human form of life. They're bad karma. When we go to the heavenly planets, we have so-called good karma, and it's also going down. But then the human form of life is a life of responsibility, where you make karma again, good karma or bad karma. But the human form of life is also the special facility that we can get free of our karma by engagement in devotional service. Only in the human form of life one can understand who we are, that we are not a body. An animal cannot understand that. And interesting, humans who live in a mode of ignorance and passion, they are like animals. They cannot understand that they are not a body. You need some blessings to understand that you are not a body, to get that understanding. When I studied at the University of Wales, my supervisor, she was a bit special. She was from India. She studied at Cambridge. She did a PhD on Amrita Maya, the hugging lady. She was very interested in my thesis on how devotees would enter in ISKCON and the power of the chanting and so on. But although she was very interested, she never accepted really the fact that we are not a body. I've seen many scholars also, academic scholars, studying the Vedas, trying to understand it, but they could not understand that they are not a body. It's also, some devotees said that when Prabhupada printed Chaitanya Charitamrita, we printed it in 3-4 months, that then after that, some scholars in Los Angeles, I think, were discussing Chaitanya Charitamrita, academics. And they were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita while drinking wine. So how can you understand that? So that's, and this is due to ignorance and passion, which is very dangerous, which will bring you again finally to lower species of life. But devotional service, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there is no loss, there is no diminution, and it protects you from the greatest danger. What is this greatest danger? It's going down to these lower species of life. That's the greatest danger. So that means even if we are performing only a small amount of devotional service, that we do some service, but we fail to make spiritual advancement, in your next life, the human form of life is guaranteed. That just by performing a little devotional service. That's how powerful it is. Because sometimes we are worried. Some devotees has performed so much service for Prabhupada, and then at the end of life they get dementia, and they forget, their power of this discrimination goes away, and we are worried. What will be their next destination? What will be their consciousness? But Krishna promised that they will not degenerate to lower species of life. And it shows also that the things are not in our hands. It just depends on Krishna, but we must do what we can. That these two factors are there. That this is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said. That we must not try to see Krishna, but act as such that Krishna sees us. We do our best. And then Krishna will take care of it, and we should have that faith, and leave it up to Krishna. Whatever he wants to do with us, it's fine. And that's part of the process of surrender that we see in this purport. Prabhupada speaks about faith in the scriptures. Yes, faith in the scriptures, not in the scientist. The devotee has faith in the words of Krishna, and not in any other kind of speculation. So, something I could say. Anything else, please?
There's actually two kinds of evolution, because there's the evolution of the body, which we've been talking about, different animals, different modes of nature, but there's also the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
And we see with Jad Bharat, of course he had sort of a special benediction, but again, depending on Krishna, as you said, even in the body of a deer, his consciousness, the evolution of his consciousness was maintained so that he could remember that he was a deer, that he had fallen down. And so he situated himself near some sages and ate prasadam and heard them chanting and listened to their discourses. And then in his next life, he took off where he left off and became Jada, Jada Bharat, because he didn't want to fall down again. Mm-hmm. So, Krishna doesn't abandon us. It's a continual cycle, and he can do what he needs to do in order to help us learn the lessons that we need to learn. We may not necessarily understand the progression from our perspective, but from his perspective, he can mold our evolution of consciousness by making certain arrangements in the material world, even suffering, to elevate us, to teach us what we need to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Krishna's takes. Krishna mentions that in Bhagavad Gita also, that I'm equal to everyone at the end of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But to my devotees, I'm their friend, and they see me as their friend. So that is an important aspect of devotional service. Living in a relationship with Krishna, seeing Krishna as your best friend. And it's a fact, because we may go from species to species, or from one human form even to another human form. But in every in every human form, you have so many relationships, so many things are happening, but nothing is permanent. Only your relationship with Krishna is permanent, and that's a permanent factor. That's if it's also, devotee learns to see things from an eternal perspective, and not from a temporary perspective. All these temporary things that happen in this world, it comes and goes. Happiness and distress, and we tolerate it. Prabhupada said yes, that the caravan passes and the dogs are barking, but still the caravan will pass. That all this so-called happiness and distress, and it comes and it goes, but it's not factual. It's part of our daydream, our daydream in this world. We dream at night, happiness and distress in the dream, and then during the day we have the dream that we are this body, happiness and distress is coming. But this is the same dream, factually. One is gross, the other is subtle, but it's both material dreams. And Krishna consciousness means we wake up from this dream. We wake up and we see, yes, that is not real life. Real life is devotional service in our relationship with Krishna. And yes, that faith in the scriptures, faith in the words of Krishna, or faith in the scientist. That most
or AI, or so many things you can put your faith these days.
Yeah, yes.
I was thinking in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Srila Sanatana Goswami really shows the evolution of the consciousness of Gopakumar. His body stays the same throughout, no matter where he goes, whatever planet. He's always in the same body with the same clothes on, even. But his consciousness is constantly evolving.
Yeah. This, according to our consciousness, there are so many destinations. Different destinations of material consciousness in the universe. Then also different spiritual consciousness, the Brahmajyoti, Vaikuntha, Goloka Vrindavan, all different types of consciousness. But of course we hope to attain and to maintain spiritual consciousness, and then but it's amazing that Lord Chaitanya gave us the highest Goloka Vrindavan, and it's the most ecstatic love for Krishna. That is, I think, a characteristic of our tradition, we get the highest. Because the Mayavas, the impersonalists, even the Brahmavadis, they get just free of suffering. That those of Vaikuntha, they get a peaceful life in opulence there. But Krishna is most pleased with more intense love, the love of Goloka Vrindavan. That we became aware of by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya is so important. He's Krishna himself, and he gives us this highest understanding. Chaitanya Charitamrita is not an ordinary scripture. It is only accessible for those who have become pure. That is what I understand. That the little thing we can understand from Chaitanya Charitamrita after so many years of study of the Bhagavatam, that understanding the mood of Srimad Radharani, it's the highest. Good. I think our time is over, and
Yes.
I'm
I get
looking.
another topic and another wonderful class tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be tomorrow again, a completely different topic. It's amazing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Jai
Vancha
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo
Nabhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavyo Namo Namah. Jai.
Anam Vaishnavim Ki Jai.